So we dovetail into another conversation. This time around, we'll talk pretty much about corruption. And I've been joined via Zoom by a former Auditor-General, Yaw Domelevo. He joins us via Zoom. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Where are you hiding, actually? Where have you been hiding?
I've been globetrotting.
Globetrotting. We miss you back home. Don't you miss Ghana?
I do. There's no place like home. You should know that.
But you decided to leave us.
Yes, because the accounts have a beautiful saying that you baby are baby.
Oh, okay. So you think that Ujienimwasie will come, right? So it's time to explore somewhere.
No, I decided not to stay to be disgraced. That's why I move. I didn't say that I've been disgraced, but if you stay, you are going to be disgraced. So you move on. Yes.
But let's talk about our corruption perception. Does it come to you as a surprise that Ghana has stagnated over the years in our corruption perception index?
Not at all. It is because there are no consequences for corruption and corruption-related offenses. Wherever misbehaviors are not checked, they thrive. And these days you can see that, especially those in government, when they commit corruption or corruption-related offenses, there are no consequences. So I'm even surprised that we are stagnated. I thought we should have been going down west. But even that is very disturbing because where we are stagnated is not a comfortable zone. If you were in the past zone and we have stagnated, that would be bad, but better than if you stagnate in a lower level. It's like you have constantly been failing. I think it's not the best.
But, I mean, people talked about resourcing graft-fighting institutions. Now they are well-resourced. Why are we not seeing results? Is that something that we're missing in this whole corruption fight?
Yeah, resourcing the anti-graft institutions is a good thing to do, but then it becomes a wasteful and fruitless expenditure when their findings are not addressed or when there are no consequences for the infractions that they bring to the fore. So it's like sending the Auditor-General and the others. Auditor-General will produce a report to show us how our money is being stolen or wasted, and there are no consequences. In that case, the money even spent on the audit or on the anti-graft institutions become a wasteful and fruitless expenditure also.
Now, talking about fruitless expenditure, another layer was added to the fight against grafts. That's the setting up of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Was that also a useless venture?
Kindly allow me to reiterate the fact that creating several institutions does not necessarily translate into winning the fight against corruption in any country. It is rather the commitment of leadership to deal with corruption. You can have only one anti-graft agency. If the leadership takes the fight against corruption seriously, it will do so well than creating a lot of them. Now, let's ask ourselves one question. Assuming we all agree that OSP, which was added to the institution, have not given us the needed results, what are we going to do? Create another one? And if we create that one and doesn't give us the results, we create another one again? No. It is only in Ghana that when one institution is failing, we create another one to support it. Then if that fails, we create another one. So if you are not able to do your job, we get somebody to join you. If the two of you cannot do it, we bring a third person. Instead of look at the person and see, is it the legal framework? Is it the skills that are available? Is it the human resource? What are the challenges? You address it. And if the problem does not go away, you fire the leadership. Because that means they don't know what to do. But not to the creation of additional institutions per se is also adding to the overhead on the consolidated fund. And I call that fruitless and wasteful, especially when it is not delivering the results that we all expected.
Now, talking about the OSP, a lot of schools of thought say that he was set up to fail. Do you agree?
I will not be able to say that categorically, but what we hear from the former and the current SPs, that is special prosecutors, make it difficult for one to say that the OSP was well-intended. If anything at all, it may be a mere fulfillment of manifesto promise, or just to show that I've done something to show that I'm fighting corruption. Because if the people who have been so mandated even come back and all that we hear from them is frustration, then the accounts will normally ask, did we go or did we come?
Yeah. Let's still stay a little longer on the special prosecutor. What do you make of the public spat between the OSP and then EOCO?
They are supposed to actually investigate. I am not pronouncing guilt on Madam Cecilia Adapa, but I thought these two institutions were created and funded from public funds. So we to get benefit from them by them collaborating or cooperating with each other, said that we can get the desired results that we have been looking for. But if that doesn't happen and they tend to be blaming each other, it is very unfortunate. But let me be quick to say that EOCO over the years has allowed itself to be unduly influenced by politics. And they go after anybody who seems to be going after a politician. I suffered it myself. Unlawfully, EOCO decided to do what they claim was, or investigate what they claim was procurement breaches, whilst they had no mandate to even audit, to investigate procurement. Their mandate doesn't cover corruption and corruption-related issues, which the OSP Act defined to include procurement breaches. But they came after me. Even when I drew their attention to their unlawful behavior, they said it didn't lie in my mouth. So I have to sue them at the court. It took the High Court to stop them. How lawless can such an institution be like this? That they who are enforcing law do not even respect the law. Recently, I even heard another one also whereby Professor Stephen Ade made some allegations against the road ministry or so. And later on, I heard EOCO has investigated and cleared them. And I said, look at how lawless this institution has become. Is it part of your mandate? If you have no mandate to investigate corruption and corruption-related issues, you should have directed or redirected that petition to the appropriate institution. How do you clear them? Why do you even investigate before clearing them? So it is really unfortunate that we set up a state institution to protect public purse. Instead of that, they are protecting public officers.
So were you then surprised when EOCO said that, well, we cannot investigate or we don't find any money laundering issues with regards to Cecilia Adapa's case, and so the docket was returned to the OSP?
I was not surprised because that I think they were there to protect against the public officers instead of public interest, from my point of view. Now, I asked a question on my Twitter. I asked, is it because of the prophecy of the president? Remember, the president prophesied that her dignity or integrity will be fully restored after the investigation. And so I asked, is it that one, or is because of the provision under Section 1, Subsection 3 of the Anti-Money Laundering Act? Because that act says, if you are being investigated for money laundering and there are properties within your possession or control which you cannot account for or cannot be reasonably attributed to your income, then you are guilty of money laundering. So they don't want even to go and do the money laundering investigation before, if something cannot be accounted for, then the person becomes guilty. Is that the case, or is both? So I've been wondering why somebody will not do the investigation, and then when you finish the investigation, then you tell Ghanaians that I did the investigation, I didn't find anything. That is fine. But to say I'm not able to do the investigation, once you have been investigating areas where your mandate doesn't even cover, Like in my case, they didn't have right to investigate procurement, but they investigated me. And like Professor Stephen Adair's case, they don't have mandate to investigate corruption and corruption-related issues. But immediately the complaint was launched by the Ministry of Roads, I think somewhere last year or early this year. They went in quickly and came back and said they have investigated and cleared. Why didn't they finish the investigation and tell us that they found nothing instead?
Will the return of the docket then end the matter, as some have said?
Not at all. I think there are several options, at least two of them I know. One of them is that definitely when this is a criminal case, suspected criminal case, and crime does not rot. When there is a change in government one day or leadership in the government, I think it may be revisited. I am also convinced that Parliament should be able to institute probe into the alleged money laundering case as well, so that we can all know what is involved and what is not involved.
But Mr. Domelevo, will that make any difference?
Yes, it will make a difference, actually. The difference is that maybe nobody will be prosecuted, but we will know the story behind the story of Mrs. Cecilia Dape's case. You know, there are several versions. Even today, I was reading from the net that they say they've accumulated money over 20 years and what. The stories are too many.
No.
So we want them to appear before a probe, so that which will be telecast, so that we can all listen and see them and hear the story. So we can all say that, yes, at the end of the day, oh, the madam did nothing wrong. Or we still think something went wrong. For that matter, I would like to say that together with some other people, we have signed a petition to Parliament. I've signed my portion. We have petitioned the Parliament that they should probe into the case, actually.
But I'm
sure the petition will be delivered either today or by tomorrow.
Okay. We are waiting to see that petition delivered. But the former president, John Mahama, has said that this issue will be revisited if he becomes president again. Must it always take a different government to investigate corrupt practices against former appointees? Must it always take this tool?
Not at all, my sister. It is best if a government holds itself accountable. Because that is what they promised us. Did you hear? I will protect the public purse.
Yeah.
And if you want to make money, don't come into the public sector. Go to the private sector. It requires holding you and your followers accountable. That is the best thing for any country, including Ghana. But when that fails, what else do you have than a new government coming to hold? Remember, crime also, the evidence of crime keeps running away or diminishing with time. Sometimes you cannot find some of the things that you knew about later on. So prosecuting it becomes more difficult. So it's best government holds itself accountable. But if government will not, then we go for the second option, which is successive government holding the previous government accountable.
Let's talk about the president's fight against corruption. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate him?
I will put him around 3 or 2.
Why?
Just giving him the credit for the funding he gives the institutions. But as for commitment, which is actually the key, I think he has failed. Let me be honest with you. I've been seeing the government's drive at digitalization and etc. And we are made to believe this is all aimed at fighting corruption. And I laugh. As I will say that there is no digitized corruption. There's IT fraud is on a higher scale than even the manual one. So if there are no consequences for misbehavior, the fraud will be digitized beyond what you can think about. And it will mean we are throwing our money after a bad money. So the commitment from the presidency or the government is the most important part, which I don't see. Hence, I give them between 3 and 2 out of 10.
Now, for a CJ, a Chief Justice, now you talk about the president's fight against corruption. You say you give him 2 out of 10. For a Chief Justice to say that President Akufo-Addo is an adherer of the rule of law, what do you think?
I found that statement extremely unfortunate. to be honest with you. Extremely unfortunate. Even as Auditor-General, it is never expected for you to praise government or the presidency in the way a judiciary officer, in fact, even a high court judge, should not be saying what the Chief Justice has said. I find it difficult. And let me say this clearly to you. From my point of view as an accountant, maybe I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what pertains in the legal fraternity. But from accountant's point of view, the rule is that the accountant or the auditor must not only be independent, but must be seen as independent. If a judge is a praise singer of the president and issues come against the state, which the president is leading, how will one think that she will give an independent, unbiased judgment? So I think if the Chief Justice is an admirer of the president, she better keeps that to herself than to go public. In fact, and this was done even in a conference and in front of cameras. When colleagues shared this, I disputed it. In fact, I have a lot of platforms. When they did say, no, Chief Justice cannot say that. You didn't hear her. Then later on, I saw a Joy FM trying to produce verbatim what she said. And I said, oh my God, this cannot be. So I find that extremely unfortunate. I think she slipped, and I think she should apologize for it and refrain from such statements. It's not good.
I was asking whether you share in thoughts that corruption is fighting the system instead of the system fighting corruption.
Well, the truth about the matter is that corruption will always fight back. So I'm not surprised about that. But we must not be worried about the fact that corruption is fighting back. I said some time ago that if you weigh what happens to us if we fight corruption as against what will happen if we stop fighting corruption, it is better we continuously fight corruption. Because as we even fight, see what it is doing to us. And what do you think will happen when we fold up and say, no, we are no more going to fight corruption? It will just be like government or anybody saying that let's stop healthcare because we are not winning the fight against healthcare system. Right. We will all die in no time. So corruption will finish us. So we must continue fighting corruption, even though it will also fight back. Corruption is always a shameless guy. He will fight in any way that it can.
On the issue of unexplained wealth, veteran lawyer Sam Okujeto has had his take on it. I'm sure you heard him. What's your thoughts on that?
I found, again, he is a lawyer. It's unfortunate for me to comment on a professional speaking in his profession, but I still think his statement is also very, very, very unfortunate. Because if you read Article 286 of the Constitution, it provides that all officers from the president, the vice, the ministers, etc., declare their assets and liabilities to the Auditor-General. And if I recall very well, Clause 4 provides that any item or any property that you could not explain after the first disclosure can be deemed to be acquired unlawfully or contrary to the Constitution. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not quoting in verbatim. Then, again, if you remember also what we referred to earlier on Section 1, Subsection 3 of the Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2020, also which says if you are being investigated for money laundering and you have in your care or your control properties that you cannot account for or cannot be reasonably attributed to your known source of income, then you are guilty of it. So for him to say that we don't owe anybody explanation, yes, on the ordinary, yes, but not when you are a public officer, too, and not when you are being investigated for money laundering. In that case, I think he goofed. He should have qualified it. Some people reach out to me to say he is the lawyer of Madam Cecilia Dapa. I don't know how true it is. But if that is even the case, then he should have made us understand that he is picking out a defense or maybe the lawyer of Madam Cecilia Dapa because there's a conflict of interest which was good for him to disclose so that we can contextualize what he is saying. Otherwise, you can't just say that we find millions in the house of a public officer and you say he owes nobody explanation. It is not. I was even wondering whether he thinks we live in the country only by law. I know, and I think there is no law which controls how many times you should eat. But if you come out and tell the public that you eat 12 times in a day, people are going to tell you have to stop that. It's a bad behavior. Is that not it? So we don't live only by law. There are other rules and ethics that guide performance in the society. And I think he should have been guided by that.
Now, talking about assets, the senior presidential advisor, Yaw Domelevo, is on a crusade to have the asset declaration regime changed. What's your take on this crusade?
I think it's a good crusade, and I will commend him if he's actually doing that, because I have personally said that there's a need to improve upon the assets and liabilities declaration system that we have, especially two main things. First one, they need to physically verify the assets. Currently, what the Auditor-General does is to verify the declaration. That is, when you fill the form and you send it to him or his staff, they will verify it against your signature to be sure that you authored that document. But whether those assets actually exist is a different question, because some people do what we call anticipatory declaration. When appointed into office, he thinks he will build 2-bedroom house before leaving office. So you will declare that. And by the time he's leaving office, he has it. So you say, I had it before coming to office. So there is a need for fiscal verification to be sure that what has been declared is exactly what is on paper. So if that is done, I think it would be fantastic. Another side of the declaration, which we don't have, which if he's championing or crusading for, he must put it on board, is the publication. Actually, before 1992 Constitution, there was, I think, political parties and civil something act, which required that Auditor-General within, I think, 14 days of declaring your assets to him to publish it for Ghanaians to see. So we have actually lowered the bar. We should bring it back there. So because Auditor-General is not God. If you came to Auditor-General and you say you have only one car, he will take it as it is. But then the people in the country know how many cars you drive. People know how many houses you have. So if you declare your assets and they don't see your house in their village or the other cars in it, they will let the Auditor-General or the public know that you have done an incomplete declaration, which is contrary to the Constitution. So if he's doing such a thing, then kudos. He should keep it up, and I'll commend him for it.
Will this not fall flat?
It is likely to fall flat. I have no doubt about it. And I said it several times, that the people who are supposed to declare their assets are the very victims of it. More or less, what I mean is, it is the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary who must ensure we do the right thing, who this same law affects. The Chief Justice and all his team at the top are supposed to declare their assets. If you go to Parliament, the Speaker and all the people in Parliament are supposed to declare their assets. If you go to Cabinet, the Cabinet ministers, the other sector ministers, regional ministers, chief directors, etc., they are all supposed to declare. And they are not happy declaring it. I had a colleague of mine who is in Cabinet, I don't want to mention his name, who keep telling me that, Daniel, this is very dangerous. If we declare our assets, armed robbers will come after us. And I say, oh, really? I didn't know that. You see, you think the armed robbers don't see you in the VH that you have been driving. It's only when you publish it that they will come after you. When you see it driving around making noise, they don't see you. And you mean the armed robbers, they don't know the house in which you are? I think that is a flimsy excuse. So we may have to play by the rules once we want to play the game. Ghanaians, we like playing the game but not obeying the rules of the game. It is nothing Ghanaian. It's a universal concept that once you hold a public office, a position of trust, holding public funds, we must know what you have before coming and what you have when you are going. So to determine whether, in case something is gone missing or you've made or abused your office. And close to that is what we call the lifestyle audit. When we think that we have found in your possession what is not commensurate with your source of income, we may have to investigate a bit further to be sure that everything is above board.
Now, Mr. Domelevo, if we look at our current political landscape, whether party A or party B, will we ever get to an era of winning the fight against corruption, where we have a lot of young appointees coming in only to enrich themselves?
It is going to be extremely difficult for us to say that we are going to win the fight against corruption. Actually, when I look at the directive principles of state policy, and it says that government should take steps to eradicate corrupt practices and abuse of office, I laugh. It is like standing in a bucket and trying to pull yourself up or lift yourself up. The guys who are responsible for the corruption are the very people to fight the corruption. So it's very difficult. Unless we Ghanaians, the citizenry, we take it upon ourselves to say, no, we are not going to allow you to continue misusing the public funds, and we decide to hold them accountable. Hence, from my point of view, there's the need for us to have a lot of citizens, like I am doing, speaking against corruption every time. And we should be able to call people out. In fact, in public gatherings, we should be able to ask, Daniel, you were in office for 8 years. Before coming to office, you didn't even have a car. Now you have 3 cars or 4 cars. How did you get it? We should call people out so that people know that we are seeing. It's as if they behave as if we even know they are corrupt practices. They always gaslight us. I hope you know gaslighting. They are misusing our money and misusing our money, treating us badly, and they speak in a way such that we feel even guilty that we are not appreciating their abuse of us. I find that very unacceptable.
Let me finally take your thoughts on this, on whether or not you have let go after the Supreme Court ruling on the case that you won, after your unconstitutional removal from office. You won the case in the Supreme Court. Have you let go?
Oh yes, life must go on. I've put that behind me a long time ago. I don't think it's an issue that even I remember, unless you mention it. It's not one of the things that I remember. My only plea to the office of the president is that they must be seen as the people who are at the forefront of obeying the laws and the constitution of Ghana or the rules of the country. It is bad when it comes out that the office of the president rather is acting unconstitutionally. If you disobey or disrespect the laws of the country to the extent that you are always pronounced doing the wrong thing, on what morals will you stand to hold the citizenry accountable when they also misbehave? So it's a plea to the president.
Mr. Domelevo, are you then saying that the president is the chief when it comes to breaking laws in this country?
Yes, they are the forefront, and I've said that to him several times. When they said I should go on leave, I drew their attention to the law. And what did they tell me? They said, because I'm not a lawyer, I don't appreciate it. And now the Supreme Court, the full bench, without any abstention, all of them said, you are wrong. And anybody, you don't even need to be a lawyer to know that what the presidency was doing was wrong. But they did it. And to remind you, the president knows that there can be a substantive Auditor-General, and you appoint an acting Auditor-General. He went ahead and did it. If he was to be somebody who has no appreciation of the law, I could have understood him. This is somebody who is being touted by the Chief Justice as the person who knows law and upholds the rules of law. And he did these things. These infatal things which even me, I will not do. I find it a bit unfortunate. I think we better stop there because I will go too far. Thank you.
Mr. Domelevo, thank you very much for speaking to us. Continue hiding. We hope to see you soon back home.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and thank you for speaking to us as well. So that's Daniel Yaw Domelevo, a former Auditor-General. There are a lot of things he said, and one key is that the fact that the system is not fighting corruption, but rather corruption is fighting the system.